to have you on the show. I'm glad you had the time to join me, and we're excited to learn more about yourself.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, I'm really happy to be chatting to you.
Of course. Maybe you can start with your journey as an artist, because I know your art, it looks super colorful, super nice, and I think this hasn't started like, it has, I think, a longer journey, I would say. So maybe you can talk through it.
Yeah, I think I've always been creative. Like I grew up in a very creative household, and I was always encouraged to be creative. I think I've mentioned this before, but it was a really fun memory for me to have recently where like one of my very earliest memories is of me and my sister. We used to spend some time with my great aunt. She used to take care of us. And she had this like spare room. There wasn't really anything going on there. She used it for like laundry and stuff.
Mm,
And she used to let us draw on the walls. And like that's one of my
nice.
earliest. So I feel like it's always been part of me. As I went through school, art was a big part of what I enjoyed and what I was good at. Um, I spent a little bit of time in art college as well. It was kind of on again, off again. I mean, ultimately, I found myself in the design career, which is
Hmm.
slightly different to what I'm doing now. So kind of web to with design, digital design, in particular. But I always illustrated, whether that was, initially it was on paper, markers, paint, quite a little time. And then I moved to digital, which is great
Nice.
fun because, you can teach yourself anything that's digital. I got an iPad a couple, I've been hooked ever since. So I always had the illustration pieces going on in the background. It was kind of more of a hobby. And it's only really since I the NFT space that I started
Nice.
committing to drawing and making art more deliberately. Yeah,
That's
pretty
cool.
cool.
And when did you get into the NFT space, and how has the journey started there as well? And how did you like I mean, you started doing one-on-one art. Is it everything you do, or um
No, there's a bit of a mix. I think the most of what I've been doing has been one-of-one art. I've done a few editions, but yeah, primarily been focused on one-of-ones. And I have a little bit, I've worked with a few kind of generative explorations, but not a huge amount. But yeah, I think I got in about a year ago. So it was, yeah, around this time last year, so July 2021. And I definitely been aware of the space. I'd heard of NFTs before, but I was getting quite negative rhetoric. So I was
yeah,
like, I don't know about that, all that. That sounds not good.
yeah,
So I was just kind of not really looking into it myself. I just accepted that and just continued on. And then it was, yeah, last summer, somebody that I knew in the design community, it was during lockdown and she started painting and minting her works and she was sharing her journey on Instagram. She was sharing them in her stories. And that's where I was spending most of my time was on Instagram stories. That's where my social media time is spent.
of
So yeah, I
course.
kind of kept seeing her talking about what she was doing. And I was like,
Mm,
I can relate to her. She's having a nice time. Maybe there's more.
yeah,
So then I kind of did my own research. That was my first exploration into that whole concept,
nice.
and found a lovely niche like within
Mm.
the one-of-one art community, and yeah, just got really hooked. I was like, oh my God, there's so many awesome people here and there's loads of good energy, and yeah, there's lots that isn't pleasant, but I found myself in a really nice section of the community, and very quickly got absolutely obsessed.
That's nice, yeah. I mean, I think the one-on-one community is a completely different niche compared to the generative art and also the bigger collections. It's I think more personal, and I think it's like also more related to personal branding. You're kind of putting yourself out as a person with your art, who you are, what values you share, and create your little I think group of followers or your community, and I think that's also the beauty of it. So it's very personal. Was there someone you were looking up to, or I mean, you grew quite quickly, I guess, right? And you have a quite good following right now, um, and on which marketplace maybe have you started? Was it always OpenSea? And
Yeah, I think when I came in, I was definitely fumbling around for a few months. So initially, because I mean, art isn't my or wasn't my like main career when I first came into the space and I didn't really come in necessarily intending to mint work or sell artwork. So I came in initially just curious. So yeah, I really spent the first few months just hanging out on Twitter, getting to
Mm,
know artists, seeing what they were doing. I started collecting. That was a big part for me as well. Like you can't really know what's going on until you kind of go through the whole process.
mm,
I mean, some of that was more pleasant than others. And I mean, as I was going through it and making friends and people, I started sharing my art. I mean, that's basically what happened is I was like, well, there seems to be people here that are into the same things I'm into. Maybe they will like my cute, weird, wormy critter art, which I assumed was, I'm up until that point, I never really pursued illustration commercially because I was like, I
mm,
think my style is maybe not very suitable for a lot of
mhm,
commercial projects. So yeah, I kind of started, connecting with people, started sharing the types of
mm,
illustrations that I was doing for just my own pleasure,
mm,
pastime. And they liked it. And I was like, oh, maybe I could mix some stuff. And like that through the process
mm,
of collecting and getting involved in other communities and getting the support of those communities and those artists. Like I think when I think back to the early days, there's a couple of people I think that have been, there's so many people who've impacted
mm,
my journey. But I think Girl Who Shivers, Techno Veins, her handle is Girl Who Shivers. So her project, Hypnose, was the very first like one of one piece of art that I ever collected.
mm,
I'm still holding, will never let her go. She's
mhm,
precious. But that like Tech and her community, and that entire team were like super supportive and really championed me at the beginning. Like it just kind of grew from there. So like
mm,
one of the big things about the community necessarily really understand until I really got in was, people talk about community within the NFT community, but it's different when you're outside of it versus when you're inside.
yeah,
And that kind of really fast sharing, connecting, just everybody hyping each other up, that whole energy of like there was no competitiveness. It was like, yeah,
mm.
I want you to do awesome. I was like, yeah, I also want you to do awesome. And that just spread. And I think that's really how it happened in the beginning was I just started getting excited about people and what they were doing. They got excited about me and what I was doing. And that's still what it's like, to be fair. Yeah, a year
Yeah.
later, that's still the energy.
Yeah, I like it as well. Like Web3 is a completely different beast compared to yeah, the, let's say, traditional way of putting yourself out in art, and also people do that, and you mentioned it as well on Instagram, right? It's
Mhm.
like the, I think, one of the go-to platforms, I guess, to get started and put yourself out there. How do you think Web3 is different maybe, and do you like it better over Instagram, for example?
Yeah, it's kind of funny for me. I think there's definitely artists that I see coming in who kind of have a pre-existing Web2 presence, or maybe they have like a really big Instagram following that they're kind
Mm,
of trying to bring over to Web3. I didn't have that. I don't have that. So for me, I'm kind of going the other way around. So like I learned about Web3 and NFTs on Instagram. That was
mm,
my way in. But realistically, once I got stuck in, I mean, now I spend most of my time on Twitter. So I've
mm,
actually slowly been trying to come back to Instagram because I was like, oh, maybe I can be that for somebody else. So I'm trying to share more on Instagram. But I think the big thing for me that I noticed was, I mean, guess what I struggled with in the Web 2 approach was, or on Instagram, is like it's really feels like you're broadcasting and you're trying
mm,
to broadcast to fans and it's not really that direct. You don't really feel that connected to people
mm,
necessarily. Like for me, my Instagram is also my friends and family, to be fair. So yes, we do chat, but like it's not really the same kind of energy as like a big artist that has a big
mm,
following, then you can't really chat to them. Whereas in Web3, everybody feels really accessible. And I feel like a lot
true.
of what I do is I'm chatting to people. It's not just me putting stuff out there and leaving it be. It's like I'm putting stuff out there and I'm talking to people, I'm replying to people, I'm doing the same for them. And it's that kind of conversational difference.
Mm,
So, the way I kind of see it now is Web 2 is broadcasting to fans, but Web 3 is hanging out with friends. And it's subtle, but it's different. Like it's more engaged, it's more conversational. It's more of, yeah, just like a back and forth, which I feel like wasn't my experience on Instagram, or it wasn't the experience that I think a lot of artists I've heard talk about have come with big followings from a Web2 perspective. So yeah, it feels more connected. It feels more, you can't really, I feel like you kind of have to be authentic in the sense
mm.
that you're spending your time chatting to people. So if you're not really being yourself, that's just not sustainable. So that's what I did. I just got excited about the things I was genuinely excited about and talked to
Yeah,
people about it. And
that's
that's how it goes. Yeah.
yeah, that's perfect. I mean, you seem to be like an outgoing person, and you like interaction with people, like sharing yourself and putting yourself out there. So I think it's also what people like about the space. So yeah, interacting, chatting and connecting, I think. And with Web3, the beauty of it is that it's kind of like worldwide, and it's not like going into a gallery or onto the street and just being exposed to, I don't know, the amount of people who are going there, but you have lots of people to talk to. Maybe you can also share with us how your art looks like, and your collection as well. And what we also discussed is that you want to send me a clip after the video, and I will include it into the video. So I'm super excited to share this one as well. But for now, maybe if you have your collection open, I would be happy to have a look at it.
Yeah, let's have a look at the Foofees. So this is my kind of main one-of-one collection that I have been building since last October. Let's see if this works.
Yeah, it works. I can see your screen now.
You can see it.
Perfect.
Woo. So I will order this internal list. So yeah, I started this, October. I think this number one happened early October 2021, and because I was kind of drawing them, they're all one-of-ones and doing them
Of course,
week by week. So they've kind of been slowly dropping, maybe 2 or 3 a week since then. So this is the Genesis collection. My goal is to get to 111.
Yeah.
So I've done number 70. Number 70 I finished most recently, which when I first got into the space, I was like, this is so slow compared to everybody else. But I am like really happy that I took a kind of a slower paced approach. Because I was also trying to make them run a full-time job, and the space moves really fast. And I didn't sleep at the beginning, but I re-centered myself around actually to sleep.
Yeah.
That's one of the big things I think when you first join the space is it's always on.
Always, yeah, always. And the space is going so fast, right?
Yeah, big time. Like there's just stuff happening all the time. But I think that's one of the beautiful things about it as well, is because it is pretty new, like there is no real, there are some examples you can take. You can look at things, what other people have done, but you can kind of make up the rules. So I did kind of come up with a hybrid format for these where they are kind of like a profile pic type project, but they're one-of-ones. They're so slow. Nice. Thank you.
Also the colors are amazing and kind of like speaking for themselves. And did you mention how fast you put them out? You said you started, and then also the month you started. When was it again?
So it was October 2021.
Okay.
Yeah, and I've been doing kind of, I think the most I managed to do in a week was like 3. So in and around everything else.
3 in a week, it's good.
Yeah, I feel okay about it now. I think at the beginning I felt that pressure to like just be dropping them all the time.
Yeah.
But I also, because I was dropping them, so the way I do them as well is they're through private sale raffles. So I use a bot in my Discord, and that bot decides who gets the listing. And I was like, okay, there's no gas wars. I was like, if there's at least 2 people interested in these, then somebody could potentially lose out. So that was part of like my early experience in the space where that had happened to me on a project. And I was like, I didn't like that, so how can I not do this? And another project I love is raffles. I was like, okay, I'm going to try that. So that's how I've been doing them. So they've been slow, but growing steadily. And thanks. The colors, I was very deliberate about the colors. That's like one of my favorite things about, I guess, the focus that I got when I entered the space. Like I did spend some time being like, okay, if I'm going to commit to like a style or a color palette, it needs to be one that I love.
Of course.
And the Foofees is one of my main areas to explore that. So like even the background colors here, they're all attached to different elements, and they all kind of happen in a certain order. And I worked out all the maths of the colors.
Yeah, so
very
cool.
Important.
I love the eyes as well, that they look kind of, also the colors look kind of like a little bit trippy. It's really nice with also the natural elements, looks kind of like nature as well. And
big time.
Yeah.
They are like, I mean, I think with the color palette, somebody called it like neon pastel. I was like, yes, that's what it is, because soft, but it's bright.
That's true.
So I love that description. And yeah, they're very connected to nature. Like I think when I kind of talked a little bit, I've been kind of exploring how to kind of articulate the lore, the
Hmm.
origin story a bit better. And they're really connected to, like for me, it was initially exploration around this idea that our brains can't
Hmm.
actually, like we can't actually perceive everything around us
Hmm.
and it fills in the gaps for us. And I was like, whoa, there's gaps. What's in the
Hmm.
gaps? So these are
Hmm.
kind of me trying to figure out what could exist in this like adjacent world that we can't perceive.
Yeah.
But I feel like they're pulling from things that we know and recognize. It's
Hmm.
like the natural elements, but they're just configured in a way that doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
That's a big part of it. Yeah.
Cool, cool, cool.
Mm.
And I've also read in the description of your project, if you scroll up further, that you mentioned that you want to bring out 111 pieces, right? And there are also some rarer ones or some different, let's say, species, or how would you call it, right?
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. So I guess the way I've structured it
yeah.
is 111, and then they happen in pods. So I mentioned there's elements. So say the first five here are a pod.
Mm-hmm.
So this purple is space, orange is fire,
Mm-hmm.
pink
Mm-hmm.
air, blue water, green earth. And then they kind of cycle through those. And then every 25th one, so here's number 25. So this is the earth elemental. So she's like a rare. So there's only like four of these
Mm-hmm.
total. And then but basically what happens is the next pod starts with the element that I finished on. So the next one, next time I get to number 50, which was the water elemental, it kind of ends. So there's kind of this kind of sequence.
Mm-hmm.
And then just above here, you can see the catalyst. So the catalysts are really fun for me because I haven't revealed, we've got one so far.
Mm-hmm.
She's
Mm-hmm.
number 44. But the idea with these is that any of these characters, so the baseline characters are called foundlings, any
Yeah.
of them can spontaneously evolve into one of these super powerful ones. So
Oh,
there's only going to be two of these in the whole
okay.
collection. So I already have one, but I haven't told anybody. I've decided what number the second one is going to be, but nobody knows when it's going to be.
Okay.
And they drop exactly like the foundlings and they're the same price. So yeah, I wanted people to have a chance to get a super rare at the same price because the other ones I'm auctioning, so they can
Hmm.
get a bit pricey.
Nice.
Um, so that's how they're working. And then once I get to number 100, then there's going to be nine guardians. And then the very last one, 111, is the space elemental, which is the supreme because space contains all the other elements. So
Okay.
that's the finale, is the supreme
Ah,
at number
nice.
111. That's
Yeah.
the plan. Yeah.
And how has it started with the pricing? You started
Yes.
selling them a little bit cheaper, and now they're already at a pretty considerable floor price, right? They.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I set up a structure for pricing too. And I think my approach at the beginning was, I put out a little, I asked people in my server, I was like, well, what would you pay for these? And I had like an example of the first
Yeah.
one or two. And kind of 0.05 was kind of sentiment at the time. And then I was like, okay, as we move through them, I'd like to increase the price, but not too much. So
Mm-hmm.
I batch them. So like after every 25 is a batch basically. So after every elemental, it goes up by 0.01. So
Okay.
a primary, they've been from 0.5 and now we're at 0.7 and the next
Mm-hmm.
batch would be 0.8 and then
Okay.
the guardians would be 0.09 and then that's it. So it's the most expensive they'd be on primary. And I stuck to that even though obviously the price of ETH has changed. But the floor price, yeah, people are very slow to let them go.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think at the moment, yeah, 0.59.
So people
And
don't like to sell them. They're keeping
they're
them.
they
That's
are
nice.
they're hard to get, I guess. Yeah,
That's cool.
it
And
is.
yeah, please go ahead.
Not, I mean, that's it. I mean, I think it's like for me, I would love to see. I mean, I'm really comfortable with people selling these, or I'd be really
Mm-hmm.
happy with a secondary market that was lower. I'm not really too worried about floor price for me.
Of course.
But it is nice to see that people like them, and I want to see people make a good return on them. I think that's part of the space.
Of
I
course, definitely.
enjoy people doing well off of my
Yeah, of
artwork.
course. Yeah,
Um,
that's
yeah.
great. Do you have some future plans? What happens if after you finish this collection? Do you already have something else in mind or not at all?
Yeah. Oh, there's so many things.
Of course, always.
Um, so there's there's like a second generation of, I mean, I guess they're holder rewards really. So depending on what combination of this first generation that people are holding, they can conjure up new characters, which would
Mm.
be basically free airdrops that I'll send to people. So I kind of outlined that it's probably more complicated than it needs to be, but the
Yeah.
first thing that everybody's going to get is they're going to get a companion. So I've got this kind of secondary character in my mind, which are I've
Hmm.
called them the Wootlings, but they're kind of like the
Okay.
creatures, companion creatures. So
Nice.
that'll be addition pieces that I'll, airdrop to folks. And then yeah, from there there's like a whole range of other characters
Mhm.
that people can collect depending on what combinations they've got in
Okay.
their wallets. So that would be the second generation. And then I do have plans to try and expand this into a bigger generative collection.
Okay.
Lots of stuff going on behind the scenes just to try and make that happen, but yeah, no official news yet on that.
Okay.
Stay
I mean,
tuned.
yeah, that's nice. I mean, I think it's a very nice way to start with putting yourself out there to start like more exclusive collection, I would say, like a smaller one that you are doing right now, with very quality pieces and showcase basically what you are capable of drawing and creating. And yeah, and then maybe expanding when you grow your circle of friends or your community. So I think it's the way to go, and especially also during this kind of market phase where it's a little bit more quiet, and you I think you have more time. It's not so hectic, right?
Yeah, exactly. And like it's not something I want to rush. Like it's I think from very early on in the collection that I was doing this, people started asking me, when 10K? And I'm like, I don't
Mm.
have the capability or the headspace for that. Like I would need to really
Yeah,
commit myself to that. So I've always been like it's been in my consciousness, but I always knew that I would want to do it in a very particular way and be very considerate about it. The pace
sure,
of this collection is slow, so like I'm not going to rush into anything big. And especially, yeah, like I think the market conditions, like if there's no need for it, then there's no need for it.
true.
But I think for me, it's about, yeah, just I guess bringing this world to more people. Like I am spending more time
Hmm.
thinking about the world, like the actual environment that they live in. Like that's
Hmm.
another big thing that I want to start getting out of my head and into
Hmm.
some sort of visuals. And I think it makes sense in that sense that they could expand like this. These are the initial explorers that have come through the portal, but when they decide that the place is nice, then they
Hmm.
invite all their friends.
That's true.
It's kind of how I'm thinking about it from a lower perspective. But yeah, I think it's not something that I will force. I think if I will take the lead from the
Hmm.
community that are there already, like I think the people that have been supporting me from the beginning are going to be who I'm trying to take care of first and foremost.
Of
So
course.
yeah,
Cool, cool, cool. I'll need to join your Discord as well after the talk. But
get in there.
of course. Do you also have some advice for people who are just getting started and who also love drawing from what you've learned, yeah, until since you've been in the space? Or is there like
Yeah,
anything, yeah, you, you were scared of in the
amazing.
beginning, or?
I think for me, one thing when I'm looking back, I'm like, I wish I'd slowed down a bit at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
So like, what I've set up here is very paced and it's
Mm-hmm.
very measured and considered, but I definitely felt the pressure of, and I know this was last summer, this was like the height of like absolute like madness in the
True.
NFT space. So it was a different time. It's like this year it feels totally different to last year. But I do think it still makes sense if you're coming in new to spend some time in the space. Like I'm grateful that I didn't initially come in and just try and mint and sell stuff. And I did make a few like there's a few bits that I kind of minted and then burned and was like, experimented on a few different platforms and blockchains and different stuff like that. So for me, it's like spend a bit of time getting to know what's happening in the space, get to know individuals. Like everybody's super accessible in this space.
Yeah.
And like what I've said to other people is like once you've found one or two people that you kind of connect with or that you like what they're doing and you follow them on Twitter, like the algorithm will start serving you more people to follow in the space.
True.
Um, and I think Twitter is probably like the your prime place if you're coming in
Sure.
to start getting comfortable. Join Twitter spaces. There's so many spaces that are targeted at people that are starting out and that are new.
True.
And people are sharing their experiences. This is a perfect example. People talk about how they've gotten into the space and what they've been doing.
Yeah.
We have the benefit now of, a year, 2 years. Some people have been here, and they're very happy to share their experiences. And for me, it's been get to know people,
Yeah.
find what you like, and get excited about it. And they'll do that for you in return, and
Of
share
course.
what you're interested in. And just spend time, get to know people.
Of course.
Um,
I mean, there's no one single way to get started, basically. It's like kind of also maybe in the beginning could be a little bit difficult because there's you could feel overwhelmed, but basically, I think it's good to hang out in communities and discords, engage on Twitter, put
yeah,
your art out there, and then see people how they react maybe. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah, and you don't have to mint something straight away. I think a lot
Hmm.
of people come in with that idea, with that
Mm.
intention, or again with that mindset of you have to kind of sell yourself in the same way you would in a traditional art or in a Web
Mm.
2 space. It's much softer here. It's like um or people don't respond as well to that kind of direct, hard
Hmm.
chill. It's
True.
it's a different energy, it's a different vibe. If people like what you're doing, if they like you and what you're about, they will connect with you and they will follow what you're doing. Hopefully they will collect. It's not a guarantee, I would say.
Hmm.
Like try and shift your mindset out of coming in trying to sell and just come in to be curious and to connect. Which it can be frustrating if you're coming in and if you have like like I know that energy, that urgent energy that artists have, but
Mm.
it really is the best way to properly get embedded in the space in a very meaningful, sustainable way. Because it's quite easy to come in fast and bomb out. Like it's so easy to get burnt out here.
True.
Um, so yeah, I think taking your time, I think don't be afraid to experiment up front. Like there are different blockchains, there are different platforms. I think something I'm telling a lot of artists now that wasn't an option to me when I started was
Hmm.
to try and own your contract. So smart contract is the
Hmm.
first thing you're going to have to get your head around if you're going to start minting. And Manifold is a great option, which didn't exist when I started. So I was
Hmm.
minting through OpenSea primarily and a bit on Foundation. But yeah, like take a bit of time to get to know the technical side of things as well. It can really help. And if you can, I find Manifold really easy to use, and it means that you have ownership over your contract, which might mean anything if you're brand new hearing this, but these are things you should definitely look
Yeah.
into if you're just getting started. Because I think that's really powerful to have like I mean, it's one of the main ideas of decentralization in Web3 is, this autonomous self-ownership. So yeah, I think that's another kind of practical tip.
Of course.
And set up your Twitter, set up a pinned tweet. If you're new, if you've got artwork, if you are trying to, if you're engaging on Twitter,
Hmm.
getting to know people, if you've got your like banner, you've got your little description, you've got your
Hmm.
links easy to find, and you have a pinned tweet introducing yourself, like that can be super helpful,
Hmm.
especially if you're spending time engaging and chatting to people and they like you and your personality and what you're talking about.
What's
Most people will have a quick look on your profile. So,
true? What's your pin tweet? Let's have a look.
oh. Okay, let's go in here. Oh, I could probably find it from here
Of
actually.
course, we will also share your social links and everything, so people can jump on that as well.
Here's my pin tweet. So it's my name pronunciation, which is the first thing that people struggle with. So
Yeah.
my name is pronounced Aoife.
Yeah.
And a little TLDR of what I do. So I make work that tries to imagine what might exist outside the
Nice.
human brain can perceive, obviously. And the TLDR, I love drawing bright and whimsical, weird cuties, critters and femmes, often all at the same time. And some of my links and some of my work.
That's so cool.
And that tweet has worked quite hard for me, as you
Wow.
can
Yeah.
see.
A lot of
Yeah.
likes and retweets.
Yeah. So people like I've changed it twice. So like I did have something similar to this
Hmm.
initially, and I reworked it, just tried to I was like, how can I describe what I do quickly? So I
Hmm.
did finesse this a little bit, and then when I got new work as well, I added some of the newer pieces. Probably due an upgrade actually. I should probably update this, but
Hmm.
it introduces me, what I'm about, and shows some of my work and a link to where you can find all my stuff.
Of course. And I have
Yeah.
seen that you also kind of support other artists, you
Big
retweet
time.
art you like. Is this the way to go, or what would you recommend to newcomers as well?
Yeah. When I talk about like getting excited about what other people are doing, this is
Mhm.
it. So there's two sides to this. So one of it is it's art that I love.
Yeah.
Some of these are artists that I've collected from.
Mm-hmm.
I always have my GM every single day. I share a Foofee and a GM. So yeah, there's a kind of an element of consistency as well. Like if you're going to be on Twitter,
Mm-hmm.
try and be here every day if you can. If it's even just the GM or to respond to some other GMs.
Mm-hmm.
And like literally as I'm going through this time and I'm like, these are literally some of my favorite people in the whole space.
Mm-hmm.
I do share a lot of works in progress. So this is the latest Foofee that I've got halfway done.
Okay.
So that's what it is. It's kind of, I guess my approach to the content on Twitter is
Mm-hmm.
be shaker.
Okay,
Um,
nice.
Look at that. That's so fun.
Someone
So
made
it's
this one, or?
Yeah, so the Super Dope team,
Ah,
they
okay.
they do these booty shakers of different kind of personalities and characters in the NFT space. And they made one based on a Foofy. Look at her, she's amazing.
So funny.
Um I tried so hard to collect her, but
And
I ran out of weed.
yeah, yeah. And what do you think about Twitter promoting tweets and stuff like this? Does it work as well, or have you made any experience? Never. Okay.
I've never promoted a tweet. So for me,
Okay.
it's like, I feel like it's more organic.
Yeah.
It can be slower for sure, but it just means it's kind of a curation. So this is a double whammy. It's like this is stuff that I like personally, but also that I
Mm-hmm.
think people who like my art will like.
Okay.
So like I am careful about what I share. I don't share everything. Like I
Yeah.
do, I am deliberate about what I will retweet.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, for the most part, it is in part showing my taste and the
Yeah.
things I collect, and also artwork that I think other people that like what I'm doing would also enjoy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
well,
Definitely.
there's a theme.
Yeah. You've been pretty active on Twitter, as I've seen, and like grown a very huge following. So that's nice to see that it works. Of course, you need to have beautiful art pieces out there as well. Need to connect with your friends, with your circle. So I think then the algorithm can help you
Yeah,
as well, right?
exactly. I mean, I think it's really hard. Like, it's actually even a red flag for me if I find myself on a Twitter page from an artist or somebody in the space and they're not sharing other people's work. It's like a bit weird for me because I'm like, you can't expect other people to share your work if you're not sharing theirs. There's
Yeah,
kind of
that's
like
true.
a mutual like respect and
Yeah.
support. That's what it is. Like that's when I talk about connecting and getting excited about things, that's what it looks like in practical terms. It's replying to people, getting excited about it, sharing, retweeting, liking, all of those things.
Mm,
But it's not, you can't expect other people to do that with your content if you're not doing it with anybody else's. I think that's
that's true.
a given. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very true fact. Do you have anything else before we wrap this up? I think we've collected lots of good tips for beginners. We've seen your beautiful art and who you are as a person. So, is there anything else we should you would like to mention before we wrap it up?
I don't think so. I mean, maybe actually some of these collectives that I've got mentioned in my Twitter bio might be
Hmm.
nice to give a shout out because I think one of the things
Of
about the
course.
space, I mean, they're an exact embodiment of everything I've talked about in terms
Okay.
of connecting and sharing. So there's the Bored Ape Ladies, on myself and these.
Okay.
And this, we do have a collection where we're kind of recreating like femme versions of Bored Apes,
Hmm.
based on apes that the founder Novo owns.
Hmm.
There, she's awesome. So yeah, we have this kind of ongoing collection where we've been inviting different artists every month to do their interpretations. And it's also just a really good community. We also just really love each other and support each other.
Nice.
And then there's Crypto Lady Gang. Again, this is an awesome directory started by Sam, the
Hmm.
Mystic. And yeah, so there is this gorgeous website, look at this website, where basically she's got this really wonderful directory
Hmm.
of women that are creating work in the space.
Nice.
So come in here if you're looking for specifically, this is focused on women in the space or femmes. Um, some of my absolute favorite people in the space are part of this collective.
Hmm.
And yeah, Sam does a lot of work as well to kind of gain different opportunities for us, so different projects to work on or opportunities to share our work is another big kind of part of this. And there's this, yeah, gorgeous directory.
Nice.
And then what else do we have? And then yeah, then there's the Ghost Club. So the Ghost Club was founded by Mumba, who's one of my absolute favorite artists.
Mm-hmm.
Free NFTs and NFTs in every sense.
Yeah.
And she's been super supportive of me, but also of artists in general in the space. So there's,
Mm-hmm.
you want to find awesome talent, this is another amazing community.
Mm-hmm.
So it's centered around a Discord community,
Yeah.
but they do all sorts of cool stuff. I think this is where like some of the most exciting collabs I've seen in the space have come through connections in the Ghost Club.
Nice.
So that's the other thing. So yeah,
Cool.
find your people and get excited about them and work with them. Yeah, it's really cool.
Awesome. That's nice. Thanks for sharing them as well. And it was super cool talking to you. Thank you so much for taking your
Likewise.
time. I'll let you know when I share it so we can put it out there. People can have a look and watch it.
Awesome. Yeah,
All
it was
right.
great fun.
Have a good day. And again, thank you so much. Yeah. Aoife, have a good
Of
one.
course, you
Cheers.
too.
Thank
Have a
you.
great one.
Bye. Bye. Bye.